This right here is a Halltech Cold Air Intake for the C8 Corvette, and today we're going to be installing it on my vehicle. Now keep in mind that if you looked at the dyno chart with this intake, most of the power gains are going to be up above 5,000 RPM. So if you're someone that really doesn't drive in the high RPMs at any point in time, you're probably not going to notice the power gains that this intake is going to bring to your car, and you might want to look into a different intake. But if you are like a drag racer or you're always up in the high RPMs, this intake is going to be perfect for you. You get an extra 14 horsepower up above 5,000 RPMs, and it is just going to be a good time. I'm going to be leaving the product linked in the description below, so be sure to check it out if you want to pick up one of these for your C8 Corvette. And by the way, if you guys are ever shopping on Paragon Performance, be sure to use my discount code C8CODY to save yourself a little bit of money at checkout. All right, without further ado, let's get the old intake out of the vehicle and put them up side by side so you can see the differences firsthand. And thanks to a little bit of editing magic, this should go pretty quick. All right, so here we have the factory airbox out of my C8 Corvette up next to the Halltech Performance Cold Air Intake that we're about to be installing on the car. And right off the bat, you can definitely tell that the Halltech one looks a lot better than the factory unit. This thing's just not really all that nice to look at, while the Halltech intake is much easier on the eyes. And here's the back views of both the intakes. Right off the bat, you can tell that the Halltech intake is just a lot simpler and cleaner than the factory airbox. I still have to swap over a few things from the factory airbox, but you can kind of get the gist of the differences that they look from the rear. Now, the main thing I want you to notice between these two intakes, and honestly the key difference here, is that obviously air is going to be coming in on both sides of the intakes the same way, but the way that they actually get to this point is a little bit different. Obviously, air enters right here. Now, whenever it gets to the middle, it has to change path and go this way towards the actual motor. Well, as you can see, there is just a 90-degree wall right there in the middle of the factory intake. There's no transition. There's no like smooth curvature to transition. It's just a 90-degree flat wall. So the air goes bam, hits that wall, and then it just kind of has to diverge this way. On the Halltech intake, instead, they added a much smoother transition to the change in airflow direction. So just like the factory one, it's going to be pulling in air from the left and the right, and then it's going to be directed right here, where if you look way up in there, it is almost just more of a slope. It's more of a progressive wall. So the air is obviously going to be kind of just ramping off and then shooting in this direction, which is much more efficient. And that's probably where most of the horsepower gains come from. All right, so I'm gonna get everything swapped over from the factory intake onto the new Halltech intake, and then we're gonna throw this bad boy up into the C8. And after some quick reassembly, we have the Halltech intake fully installed on the C8. And I gotta say, guys, it's a shame we gotta put all these covers back over this thing, because it sure does look amazing. All right, everything is now fully installed on the C8 Corvette, so now we can go for a little test drive, see if we can notice any differences. All right, guys, so driving the C8 Corvette after the Halltech Cold Air Intake install, I don't know if the camera's gonna be able to pick it up, but let's try it with the valves open and see how it sounds. Oh my gosh. Oh, that feels good. It feels really good, guys. All right, so we can definitely confirm that it drives the same as OEM. I'm not feeling any like hesitations or anything. It feels great. It feels like, you know, the drivability of the stock airbox. But there is like an added sound to it. I don't know how to describe it. I really don't. It's like a deeper sound. Ooh, it just popped a little bit. It's like a deeper sucking sound. You can really hear all the air just being sucked in. It's like it's more free-flowing back there, which it should be because it is more efficient than the factory airbox. Oh my god. That sounds great. Now, as far as horsepower gains, I don't necessarily expect to feel it all too much until we get above 5,000 RPM. And even then, you know, 14 horsepower, while it is something, it's not something that is easily going to be felt on a car that already comes with 430 horsepower. You're talking about a maybe, what is that, 4 to 5% increase in horsepower. Somebody else do the math on that. But, you know, I don't really expect to feel it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. All right, so I say we go into Z mode and give her the beans a little bit. All right, guys, so we are in Z mode, about to do a high RPM full, is that a cop? I hope not. Okay, that felt a little different, I'm not gonna lie. I think the throttle response is better. I'm not even joking about that. It definitely pulled really good. There could be a lot of things going on here, but it does actually feel like we're going a little bit faster than normal. Like I've said, I've launched this car a lot, and I've done a lot of pulls in this vehicle over the past 2 years, so I know how it feels. And this does feel better. Plus the extra sounds that the intake is making is really, really cool. I like it. Mixed with my loud exhaust, it's just like a really visceral experience. And of course the acceleration. So I mean, like, it just has a lot of good stuff going for it right now. I'm very happy with this intake, I'm not gonna lie. Like, just listen. Oh, it sounds so good. The main thing that I want is the good drivability, like the OEM one, and the extra sound. Those are the two things that are important to me. I think that's what's really gonna amp up the driving experience for someone and make the intake worth it. Oh my goodness. It sounds so good, dude. It sounds so good. Oh, dude. Yeah, above 5,000 RPM, it definitely feels like it breathes a lot better. It definitely sounds like it too. Like, the higher you get up in the RPM range, you just hear that intake sucking in all the air, dude. All right, so a few key points about this intake, guys. For one, the looks of the intake, 100% way better than the factory unit. The factory one is not nice to look at whatsoever. The fit of the intake was great. I had no issues whatsoever with the install. They supplied a bunch of extra hardware, a bunch of extra, like, you know, clips and whatnot in case you break something. So that was great. The drivability, so far I've done a bunch of pulls. We've driven around for like 10 or 15 miles. Drives just like the stock one. Obviously we have a little extra bump in horsepower above 5,000 RPM, which is always nice. We have a lot of extra nice noises coming from the intake that the factory one just did not have. And small things like that really do add to the driving experience, especially of a car like this, where you already have the exhaust going, you have the, you know, the torque from the motor pushing you back in your seat, and you can just get like an extra little third sound that you have going on back there, which is really nice, and I do appreciate it. Now, like I said, I will be leaving this product link in the description below, so you can head on over to Paragon Performance and pick yourself up a Halltech intake. Get a little extra horsepower, get a lot of extra sound, and overall just a nice replacement to the stock unit. Also, don't forget to use my discount code C8 Cody on any purchases at Paragon Performance. And with that being said, guys, I will see y'all in the next one.